Hello, this is Steven with MCNC's Vital Cyber Team, and today we're going to be going through the installation of Crowdstrike on Linux. For this example, I'll be using the GUI on Ubuntu 20.04. However, the process is going to be the same, regardless of whether you're in a GUI or in command line. You're essentially going to be feeding distro-specific commands to install it, apply the CID, and get it up and running. With this, I am going to lean a bit more on the documentation, though, because your kernel has to match a list of Crowdstrike supported kernels. Generally, these are the long-term support kernels. Failure to have a kernel running that is supported by the Crowdstrike agent results in the agent going into RFM mode, which on Linux is essentially just a heartbeat where you get no protection at all. So please do pay attention, run uname, make sure you know what kernel you have before installing, and we'll see you in the next video. So hopefully you have your Linux device on hand. Again, the distro really shouldn't matter as long as it's one of Crowdstrike's supported ones. We're starting off in the host management screen as always. This is generally where I recommend our clients, start their day at. Gives you a good overview of your environment. I'll repeatedly mention RFM when talking about Linux because it's just that critical. RFM in Linux is going to be something that no longer is protected, it's just checking in. And if we scroll down, we can see we have a couple of Ubuntu machines where the kernel has been upgraded past what's supported, so they're sitting in RFM. As a reminder, these columns are pretty customizable. You just go over to the far right, the toggle table columns, and you can turn on and off what you care about. Linux, since we're focusing on the kernel, and RFM, you'll want to make sure those are checked. One additional thing to keep in mind is this filter up here. If you just click on the search bar at the top, it'll show you what you can search for. If we scroll down to RFM, we can pre-populate with either no or yes, and that can help you find out which of your Linux devices may be in RFM in case the kernel automatically updated or something. But without further ado, let's get the agent downloaded and get to installing. So as always, we'll click on the white falcon in the upper left-hand corner. It blinks red and white when I mouse over it. And then we'll go over to the hosts column. It's third over. And then we'll highlight sensor downloads. This is where we're going to be clicking into. So within sensor downloads, of course, we have our CID here. That's the serial number for your install. So go on, make sure to protect that. It'll be blurred out on our screen. If we look down, we'll have Linux Ubuntu installers. So we'll go on, click that, give that an install. I'll leave it up to you on how you want to get it over to your environment or put it into any repository you may support locally. We also have support for other versions of Linux in here, so SLES, Rail, CentOS. That does extend to Alma and Rocky versions of Linux, provided they're running a supported kernel. We have Debian, we also have Amazon Linux, and we even have Amazon Linux ARM64. Now, here's where I point out the documentation. The documentation for Linux and everything else can be found by going to the upper right-hand portion of the console, and we can see the chat boxes, or whatever icon you want to call this, turning blue as I mouse over it. You'll click that, open it up, and choose Docs. Now here within the documentation page, you'll click on Falcon Sensor for Linux, which I already have pulled up. We're really focused on installing the Falcon Sensor. So for all of the Linux gurus out there, I'm going to apologize that this is a very rudimentary install, but I assume if you know enough about Linux to, point out that I'm doing the most basic of the basic, you're probably, well trained enough to be able to do it yourself in a more refined fashion. If so, please share with us. We all love to learn and grow off of each other. On the left-hand side here, we have the contents. We can see them highlighting, changing color as I mouse over them. We're going to care about the installing Falcon Sensor for Linux directly on the hosts. The advanced installation options are below. We've already gone over in other videos the networking requirements. Of course, you need port 443 outbound, no TLS intercept on the CrowdStrike GovCloud URLs. But we do have our steps here to follow. You can either run and download this Falcon kernel check tool yourself if you're curious,
Hey everyone, Eric from MCNC here with a quick update. Since we originally recorded this video, Crowdstrike slightly changed where you can see the supported Linux kernels. So I'm just going to show you that real quick. To start off, we just go over to the dock screen. And it's up here, Linux supported kernels. We're just going to click on that. And once we're in here, we will find the distro that you're interested in. And this gets you the list of all the supported kernels. So assuming that the kernel you're running is in this list, if you click on that, we'll get you the supported sensor versions that are capable of supporting that kernel. So particularly when support has just been added to a new kernel, you're going to want to make sure that your Linux servers are running a sensor that's capable of supporting the kernel you're running. This could potentially involve some group management on our side, so please reach out to MCNC if you have any questions. All right, now back to Stephen.
And I have already got my Linux agent on our Ubuntu device. So we'll just jump over there. We'll sign in. And we just have basic Ubuntu GUI here. So we're going to run a ls. I'll see my file name there. And if we just want to follow the instructions, the first step with Ubuntu, mind you, if you've got Rail or SLES, you'll have different options here, but I'm going to be using dpackage. Of course, before we start, we'll run a uname-r to see that I'm running 5.4.0-26, which should have been one of those supported kernels. And now we can run dpackage-i, and again we'll call the installer file name, which here will be Ubuntu 6.3.4 deb. As always, we keep in mind that pesky sudo key in our password. So, as we can see here, dpackage didn't take too long. So now we're going to step over here and see that on all operating systems, regardless of distro, you're going to call out sudo opt Crowdstrike falconctl and provide it the CID. Sudo opt Crowdstrike falconctl space -s space -cid. Paste in the CID, hit enter, and clear the screen for them real quick. So basically we've pasted in our CID. That's let our agent know that not only is it installed, but it has what it needs to jump back and tether to our cloud console. And now depending on which of these two you have below, you're going to either call service falcon sensor start or systemctl start falcon sensor. And generally, I get this one right first try. Maybe it's just the Linux folks being really nice to me. So, there the sensors started. Hopefully for folks who have seen the other videos, you all know where we're going to go. Of course, we're going to go back to host management. So that's the white falcon that's always in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. We're going to go over to the hosts column and hosts management. With all good luck, we can see, yep, it is there, March 25th. Again, indication when I'm recording this. We'll sort by the last seen date just to get it at the top. And then we can see our kernel version. We can also see we've got no policy because this just started up, but as we've already established in other videos, so long as the agent can check in here and populate this information, it'll slowly begin to pull down the prevention policy, response policy, and sensor update policy per the dynamic grouping that MCNC has set up. We can also look over here and see RFM's no, because this is a supported kernel. So for now, we can consider this done, as all you'd have to do in your environment is install this to a couple more devices, go get a cup of coffee, come back, and hopefully your prevention response sensor update policies will look like these below, with the date of when they've been applied. So hope that helps you, and contact us if you've got any questions. If you enjoyed the video, please do make sure to share it out with folks in your cohort or anybody you think it could be useful to. We're all in this migration journey together. And always remember, if you have any questions, we're here to help, and you know how to get a hold of us.